friends. This is Archangel. Thank you for being here. Male devaluation is reality. How can we know this? By our treatment of male genitalia. Just a warning, in this episode, it's gonna get a little ugly, but then devaluing a sex in order to dispose of them is not pretty, so buckle up. Portions of today's video come from Chapter 2 of Green Eggs and Man. As I stated in the previous video, hitting males in the groin is a deplorable yet conspicuous manifestation of male devaluation. Oh, but it doesn't stop there. NAD shots are merely gateway drugs to deeper sentiments of hatred and loathing towards males via their genitalia. Let me reiterate, male devaluation is reality and is blatantly demonstrated by the mutilation of male anatomy in pop culture and entertainment. And hence, entertainment and pop culture in turn programs the general populace. Bottom line, whether you watch or expose yourself to pop culture or entertainment or not, it does filter down and affect everyone, flat out. And male devaluation doesn't stop at a few groin shots for humor in a couple cheeseball comedies. Oh, no. Male devaluation has put on its big girl panties and grown into much more than just a few shots of humor to the male groin. So it goes like this. At first, we have entertainment using male anatomy for humor. Now we have advanced further, and hence many are taking the apathy and contempt for the male privates to the next step along the devaluation path. Not only is there more shots to the male groin for humor, there are more shots to the male groin for horror. Humor is merely the gateway drug, a prejudicial foot in the door. And now we have graduated from comical bigotry to biased, undisguised gore. We now like to mutilate male genitalia for public consumption. There are so many movies where males take everything from animal attacks to household items to all manner of weaponry to the groin. Knives, gunshots, swords, medieval torture devices. I mean, what hasn't a guy taken to the groin? In some movies, you may not observe, but rather are made aware that the male character is getting a knife or a gunshot to the genitals. Maybe you see a blade or a gunshot echoes, and then it cuts to a guy keeled over on the floor. Other times, the characters flat out reveal genital trauma in the dialogue. Interesting how the male characters always seem to get the genital injury instead of the females. Oh, indeed, there are females that get killed and chopped up in movies, but they don't take blows specifically to the genitals as males do. Things are just a teensy bit lopsided and biased. Even so, there have been numerous movies that have gone beyond brief trauma scenes and dialogue innuendo to much darker and more graphic depictions of genital trauma to males. When I say numerous, I mean numerous, and not just a bunch of obsolete backroom horror flicks. Many are mainstream, and with our technological stature, entertainment has global implications. More shows than I can count make candid references to injury of the male genitals somewhere in the dialogue of the movie. Many times it's the cops showing up to the scene of a murder and discussing the details of that murder. It was cut off. It was found over here. What a terrible way to go, etc. Once in a while, even a juvenile character announces they found it in the toilet. How nice. Even our little kids get to jump into the misandry male devaluation fray. Moreover, it seems every other movie has statements of testicle jeopardy, which are heard somewhere in the dialogue. I will cut your balls off. He will cut your balls off. She will cut your balls off. King Kong's Schnauzer's pet canary will rip your balls off. There always seems to be some threat of ball or favorite part removal, regardless of genre. Drama, action, suspense, thriller, comedies, even romance. Testicle removal is a universal device in movies. Cut his balls off, rip his balls off, shoot his balls off. You are always hearing someone threaten to cut or rip or remove a man's balls. Threats of ball removal is nearly as ubiquitous as our groin shots in our entertainment. Other dialogue devices have characters recount threats of penile removal, a monster or an ex that tried to bite it off. I remember one flick where you hear an adult female chastising a juvenile male behind closed doors. "Stretch it out. Do you want me to cut it off?" You hear this adult female shouting at this little boy who is still peeing the bed. Then later in the movie, "cut it off" comes up again when another kid pees himself. Yeah. Then there is a lot of verbal negativity towards the male genitalia if you really listen and pay attention. However, our mutilation of male genitalia does not stop at dialogue, innuendo, or verbiage. We also get to see colorful enactments. I saw one movie not too long ago that completely and utterly just appalled me. I will not give any indirect plugs to any of these movies by mentioning names. Suffice it to say, in this movie, a female cuts and removes a man's genitals, then tosses them to some dogs who start chomping on them. Oh yeah, and just what was the justification in the storyline that prompted this? He called her a cunt, a word which most females abhor. So with this little plot device, it takes a horrific act like this and turns it into a point of sympathy for female viewers. Now it's totally cool and understandable why she, or any female for that matter, would do such a thing. What? He called you a what? Oh, hell yeah, girl, he deserved it. Yes, in the movie, he was going to torture and kill her until she turned the tables and gained the upper hand. But why couldn't she have just slit his throat, or stabbed him, or stuck the scissors in a carotid artery? Well, obviously, this director was trying to make a name for himself by taking a piece of crap and adding something shocking to it to strum up attention for his inferior piece of sequel work. Yes, it's male producers, male directors, male actors propagating male genital mutilation on the silver screen and in our entertainment. Males propagating violent enactments against males. Yeah, it's pathetic. I was so absolutely mortified upon seeing this that I promptly ejected the DVD without watching any further. I broke it into pieces and tossed it and the case into the garbage. I was sickened and amazingly angered. I saw another movie where the bad guy has his junk shot off by a good guy in defense of a woman. Of course, let's invoke a little sympathy and white knighterly, huh? Then the bad guy emerges later in the movie after having some mad scientists help him grow back his man parts, at which point the same good guy, this time manually, as in using his hands to rip off the bad guy's phallus and toss it aside. Oh, but wait, they just keep coming. I watched one just the other night where a certain lake is having some problems with killer fish chewing up all the spring breakers. In one particular scene, they pull a guy out of the water and onto the boat with one of these killer fish attached to his groin. A boat member eventually knocks the demon fish back into the water, but not until it had chewed off this guy's penis. Then they show an underwater shot of this guy's dismembered penis sinking to the bottom of the lake. Yeah. And as it sinks through the depths, another one of these killer fish comes along and gulps it down, then pauses, acting sick and making an exaggerated green indigestion face, then spits this disgusting pale noodle back out, partially chewed. I guess this was the director's attempt at gore, humor, and poetic justice, because this guy was painted as a patronizing chauvinistic jerk in the movie who belittled females as sex objects. Yeah, how nice. And besides, who doesn't like to see killer fish make funny faces of nausea and then spit out chewed up phalluses? Heck yeah, that's just good hometown God-fearing family-friendly fun right there. Oh, but wait, that was not the end of it. I chanced upon a sequel to this same killer fish reboot a few months later, and the absurdity just continued on. There was one scene where a guy is having intercourse with a girl who has one of these killer fish inside her, which of course swims through her abdomen and latches onto the guy's penis during intercourse. Yeah, I mean, duh, all homicidal fish inside female abdomens do this. It's common knowledge. When this happens, the unfortunate chump pulls out and runs around the room panicked, with his fish chomping on his Johnson. So he then takes a knife and cuts off his own genitalia, and they simply show half a Johnson lying on the floor. Yeah, ridiculous and just pathetic. This movie and so many others go out of their way to include scenes of mutilating male genitals, because none of these depictions of mutilation to male genitalia is necessary to plot or storyline. It is simply undisguised male devaluation that these filmmakers go out of their way to serve up for the consumption of the general populace, which has the added benefit of desensitization and brainwashing of an already gynocentric audience. You see, most don't even try to justify scenes of trauma to male genitalia as plot devices. Such representations are just tossed in for bold, gross-out effect. Yet among entertainment that at least try to provide some modicum of storyline justification, I'm noticing a pattern in terms of plot. You paint a male character as selfish, an asshole, especially to females. It then makes the mutilating of male genitalia a point of sympathy for the viewers. Moreover, if you really want to make male genital mutilation a point of sympathy, then simply include a graphic rape scene. That way, when she bites it off later on, everybody cheers it on as justice. There are plenty of female characters on film or in literature who are jerks, deviants, sociopaths, or megalomaniacs. But I don't see that used as a plot device to dismember female genitalia with graphic, even celebratory depictions of mutilation. I saw another movie where the supernatural killer rips the erect phallus off a male and triumphantly holds it up. Another where a guy explodes his penis in a vacuum enlarger because he loses focus and pumps too much. Another guy accidentally breaks the phallus off a guy who has been burned to a crisp in a tanning bed. There are books and movies where a guy has his genitals cut off and stuck in his mouth. Another movie where the search party comes across a guy's balls simply hanging from a tree branch where the killer left them. Another where a teen girl drugs an adult male, then spends the lion's share of the movie centered around the task of removing the testicles of a pedophile, which helps justify this torture and thus the breadth of the movie in the minds of the viewers. And, as stated earlier, there are more sources of entertainment than there is tea in China, where injury to male anatomy is verbalized or inferred somewhere during the discourse of the movie, TV show, or book. It's true that with horror flicks and cheap comedy, it's like sticking your hand into a porta potty. Usually, you're going to come out with a piece of crap, especially when you get into B flicks or independent movies, where it merely becomes gore for gore's sake in order to get that production noticed by the entertainment higher-ups. I've seen lots of movies which use gore to induce shock. But as depictions become darker and more graphic, the more polluted society becomes with male devaluation, and the more profound our societal disdain of males becomes. If gore was aimed equally at the female genitalia as well as the males, then that would at least be fair. For example, there was one movie where a lady takes a crazed snake attack to the boob, and then another scene where a guy takes a crazed snake attack to the groin. Okay, fine. At least it's equal representations of trauma towards both sexes' anatomy. Kind of. If she had taken a crazed snake attack to the vagina, that would have been equal treatment in terms of this comparison. But perpetrations of trauma towards male genitalia in the media is, yet again, totally lopsided, because we loathe males. We devalue males in order to usurp utility from them, then dispose of them. And this is reflected in our treatment of their anatomy within our cultural handiworks. Now, I'm not saying that females aren't killed by the dozens in slasher flicks, but taking an axe to the head or a knife across the throat is totally different than shameless representations of male genital mutilation or removal. There is a serious discrepancy here. Now, I love music and I love movies. I love movies, and I will not apologize for this. However, in all my movie travels, I have never seen a female have her boob or vulva graphically cut off, then fed to dogs. I have never seen a female have her boob shot off. I have never seen a female have her boob yanked off. I have never seen a female have her clit bitten off. I have not seen females held down while someone else cuts off a breast or removes ovaries and then tosses them to someone who collects them in a jar. I have not seen dismembered boobs or chunks of vagina falling to a lake bottom and a fish coming along, eating them, then spitting them back out with a comical indigestion face. I have not seen females take knives or swords or axes or gunshots to the vagina. I have not seen guns or knives held to the groins or boobs of females in order to persuade the character to cooperate or spill information. I have not seen females get their genitals burned or melted off. I have not seen females cut off their own boob because a killer fish was attached and chomping away at it. I have not seen the heroic female shoot off, then later yank off the villainous female's clit or vulva or even a pubic hair. I have not seen a female explode her boob or vulva in a vacuum pump because she got distracted. And yes, they do make vacuum enlarger pumps for both parts of the female anatomy. I have not come across females having a vagina cut out and stuck in their mouth. I have not heard repetitive or constant dialogue in movies and literature of all different flavors about cutting off, biting off, removal of, or injury to female anatomy. I have not seen a teen male drug an adult female, then go about the removal of a breast or clitoris or ovary of a female pedophile. However, you can be damn sure I have seen all this and so much more aimed at male genitals on TV and film and internet. I have read books with similar dark themes towards male genitalia. It's everywhere. Male devaluation is everywhere. Our culture is riddled with this rampant defamation of males, which is manifest by our abuse of their genitalia. Moreover, I have not heard such extensive nor gratuitous talk detailing malicious injury upon female genitals to even a tenth of the degree with which the male anatomy is cavalierly mutilated. The fact that so much negativity is aimed at male privates and then boldly displayed for public consumption simply reinforces the fact that males and their genitalia are loathsome and contemptible in the minds of our societal body, and therefore deserving of this acceptable form of depreciation. This is not just a recent, in the last few years, phenomena. The depreciation of the male genitalia has been going on for decades. There are mutilation movies in the 70s. In fact, I remember some cheesy space flick from the 80s where males were placed on conveyor belts on a production line whose purpose was to remove their genitals as they proceeded along the automated belts, after which they became docile, neutered servants to women. Wow. Yeah, how prophetic was that? Look at how males are treated in relationships today as emasculated tools of utility and service. In effect, docile, neutered servants. I sure don't remember any flicks of any time or genre where females were placed on conveyor belts in order to have their boobs or vaginas removed in order that they become docile servants to males. Furthermore, we use males and their genitalia not only for comedy, not only for shock and horror, but to induce specific negative emotions. Just as authors or filmmakers will use rainbows and butterflies to induce feelings of happiness, or puppies and children to induce sympathetic feelings of innocence and wonder, so too do they use male anatomy to give you that sick feeling in the pit of your stomach. Male anatomy and sexual functionings are a common tool to induce disgust in the viewer. This is usually accomplished with images of males raping and masturbating. It seems there is always a demented, crazy dude masturbating somewhere in a deviant fashion. Or we get males screwing corpses, or barnyard animals, or sticking their sad little noodles into everything they possibly can, all of which is intended to induce disgust or sicken the viewer. Whenever a guy stops to take a leak in a horror film, you just know that they are setting the scene for some sort of crazed killer or creature to come along and cause some sort of trauma to his exposed genitals while he is urinating. And along those lines, we are forever displaying males peeing. People are so used to watching guys taking a leak and talking to themselves, making designs on the ground, moaning, groaning, and farting, or peeing themselves when scared. I mean, what? Girls don't ever urinate? Females don't pee themselves when frightened? Nope, apparently not. Urine and the process of its exit from the body is disgusting to many. And so, of course, we associate that which is disgusting with the male sex. I don't see any crazed serial killing females drooling or masturbating or humping dead corpses or dolls or mailboxes or cutting off their own nipples or masturbating with sandpaper or moaning and farting while urinating. I sure don't hear females forever being threatened with the removal of their anatomy. Never heard an adult male chastising a juvenile female behind closed doors, threatening genital removal if the little girl doesn't stop peeing herself. Oh yes, this is how we are representing males in our entertainment, using every possible scenario or conceivable circumstance to demean males and their inferior, abhorrent genitalia. I'm not saying there are no movies, TV shows, internet sites, publications, or media outlets that do not have examples of female genital mockery or trauma. But when you compare the handful of female examples to the gazillions of male examples, well, there really is no comparison, nor any point in arguing. Male anatomy is disparaged and depreciated everywhere you turn. It's not hard to understand what is taking place. Focused male devaluation, plain and simple. All you need to do is simply follow the timeline of males as they are represented in our popular entertainment and culture, starting from the 50s and progressing on. First, we have males as annoyances who oppress females. Then it becomes simple mockery, a few harmless jokes, bash the male sex a little, all in good fun. Then joking turns into disapproval. Then the disapproval becomes disrespectful references to the male genitals, after which you have ungodly amounts of males getting whacked in the nads under the banner of comedy. Finally, we simply drop all the subterfuge and conspicuously disparage male anatomy with ever-increasing graphic depictions of malicious injury to male privates, while conversely, we darn near worship the female body and sexual anatomy. Not too hard to decipher. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say, we devalue males. Well, how can we demonstrate this? By slandering the one thing that separates males from females anatomically, their genitalia. Oh, I know, I must be bonkers for even suggesting such a thing. We love our males and their junk. Yeah, kind of like a shark loves seals with its teeth, or a soldier loves his enemy with little pieces of lead. We communicate our contempt of males in the most potent way possible. Disparagement of their reproductive organs, mutilating the very epicenter of manhood, verbally, conceptually, in effigy, and in reality. Yes, I understand the entertainment industry is insanely tough to get into. It's even harder to make it big once you are noticed. So many actors, directors, producers go to extremes and do anything shocking that pushes the envelope in order to get noticed or make a name for themselves. But the fact that there are depictions of mutilation to male genitals instead of a neutral, unisex item like elbows or shins, and the fact that female genitals are relatively untouched in such brutal depictions by comparison, this all says something very obvious. Male genitals are devalued and unimportant on a wholesale public level. As stated earlier, the choice to direct negativity and or violence towards the male genitals is a powerful statement. It is taking a shot at the very essence of being male. It is absolute raw bigotry and contempt for the male sex. Devalue a small portion of males, and it becomes easier to devalue the entire male and the entire male sex by extension. Again, devalue a part. It then becomes easier to devalue the whole. I cannot overemphasize the depths of loathing and disapproval which propel slander and evisceration of the male genitalia in every nook and cranny of our culture, nor could I possibly overstate the potency of meaning contained within these disparaging representations. Directing negativity towards male genitals is directing negativity towards the male sex. Point blank. The fact that you don't see breasts or vaginas being cut or ripped or mutilated with rampant abandon in movies, books, and entertainment speaks volumes in the other direction, that the female anatomy is valued and revered, and thus the female sex is elevated, worshipped, and non-disposable. I mean, when I really sit back and look at the larger body of works, I cannot believe the sheer number of trauma to the male groin depictions that I see everywhere, whether it be a humorous soccer ball to the balls or darker depictions of injury. The sheer amount of utter disregard for males and their most sensitive parts is unbelievable. I stated it earlier, and I will again. This one point by itself completely and effectively validates my observation of a culture completely awash in an anti-male belief system of a gynocentric paradigm. If there were just as many female groin shots or depictions of female genital mutilation for humor and entertainment, then I would have nothing to argue here. With so many depictions of disrespect, negativity, and trauma towards the male anatomy, even males themselves eventually take some of this to heart and disrespect their own and other males' anatomy. There are shows where guys are more than willing to degrade themselves and their anatomy for the camera by bludgeoning themselves with all manner of objects in the groin, or enacting stunts like stapling their scrotums to their thighs. Yeah. And in fact, if these idiots didn't make fun of male anatomy or male sexual functioning, they would not have a show, because all they do is mock male anatomy. Wow, really? I mean, think about it. Do you see any shows where females degrade themselves and their anatomy in any way at all similar to this? Maybe you've seen a female show of jackasses stapling a nipple to an arm, or a labial lip to a thigh, or females drinking other females' bodily fluids. No? Are you drawing a blank? Well, of course not. Females do not degrade themselves, nor would they degrade their own holy anatomy. It would be sacrilegious, since female anatomy is worshipped by our culture. Yeah, guys, on the other hand, about the only thing their junk is good for is mockery and mutilation for public consumption. Furthermore, some males take the cultural disapproval of their anatomy and internalize it, giving themselves approval to disrespect their own anatomy, some even mutilating themselves in real life. There have been males in real life that have injured their own genitalia. Now, granted, many of these were mentally unsettled individuals. However, the brainwashing projected by a pro-female anti-male society has a more prominent role than most can fathom. It's not hard to find freak news type reportings about such happenings, especially on the internet. The media loves to flippantly report any and all stories about genital injuries to males, whether by their own hand or that of an angry spouse. Yet, here again, stories of females intentionally injuring or mutilating their own genitalia are nearly unheard of. The conspicuous absence of everyday females slandering or injuring their genitalia tells us that everyone, even mentally challenged females, know to value the female anatomy, while the number of males that injure or alter their own genitalia speaks to the atmosphere of belittlement and devaluation that surrounds the male genitalia and the influence it has on lesser minds. I will throw out a few examples and cover some ramifications in the next episode of Junk Files. Okie dokie. Wasn't that a fun, fluffy kitty, fuzzy bunny, warm, pleasant little pumpkin pie video? Yeah. So, to be clear, first and foremost, male devaluation is a reality in our world, and the way to know this is simply to observe the way the male genitalia is treated and represented in our culture. This is the hard and fast litmus test to detecting societal male devaluation. The contempt and mockery of male genitalia proves male devaluation to be a concrete reality. especially in juxtaposition with the elevation and worship of the female genitalia. And again, the relevance is we devalue males in order that we can justify using them for utility, then disposing of them. We devalue in order to set standards of worth. Females are elevated in worth, males are devalued and lowered in worth. And so the excitement continues in the next episode. Thank you so much for joining me. Please help me spread these red pills to the world. And my friends, my brothers, stand with me, live free.